In its quest to provide an open forum for discussion of controversial issues, this station allows hosts and their guests to express themselves without any significant censorship. You are advised that any view expressed by the host or their guest are not necessarily the views of the owners or management of TogiNet Radio, Togi Entertainment, or the Owners Group, Inc.
It's time for Motherhood Talk Radio, the most powerful voice in women's issues today, with Sandra Beck and Christy Holly. Ladies, Motherhood Talk Radio is here to give you a powerful platform by giving you interesting, inspiring, and influential information as you navigate everything from childcare to corporate formation. Motherhood Talk Radio has interviews with best-selling authors, gurus of happiness, and women of interest who every single day make our world a better place for our families. Motherhood Talk Radio, powered by Motherhood Incorporated, is on the air now. Moms, this really is your show. Motherhood Talk Radio. And now, here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Christy Holly.
Hey, mamas. We are here today with another great topic on Motherhood Talk Radio. I'm here with Christy.
Hello, ladies.
And we have a wonderful guest today. We have Robin Boyd, who is a full-time elder caregiver, and she brings her experiences to the show today, like frontline tactical experiences in caring for her mother. And Christy and I both have elder care issues. We have a lot of issues, but
yeah,
for the purposes
say that.
For the purposes of this show, we will only be covering our elder care issues.
Thank God.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what elder care issues are, it's caring for your parents, caring for your grandparents, caring for really anybody who is older than you. But, Christy, who do you care for?
Well, I help my dad with my grandma, who's 97 years old. I go over there about 10 hours a week and visit with her, help her with anything that she needs. I help her with her shower and, clean her house and visit and, that whole thing.
Well, it's amazing what we do, for our elders. And, it can be as simple as just sitting with them. It can be talking to them. It can be, bringing them food, cleaning their kitchen. I know when I helped my parents care for my grandmother and grandfather, a lot of it was like checking expiration dates. Seriously, go in the refrigerator and,
My grandma, they don't care about expiration dates. They're like, it doesn't matter. It's still good.
It's still good, right?
Still good. If you haven't opened it, still good.
Yogurt from 1993, or my favorite was, we would find these Jell-O boxes, because you would go in the cabinet and pull out, like, the Jell-O, and it'd be like, wow, this was designed, like, before I was born.
Like, oh, my God. We have a big box of Equal at my grandma's, which I don't know why we haven't got rid of it yet, but it's from 2000, like 2001. We're like, I wonder what happens if we consume this.
Well, and your 3 children are cumulatively older than the sugar.
Exactly.
Well, and it's so bad. I know, I think, I don't know about you, but I find, like, in difficult situations, it's always helpful to kind of, like, gently make fun of things or laugh about things because, caring for the elderly and caring for our children, and especially doing them simultaneously, can really be a lot.
Yeah, well, you have to. You have to laugh about things. Otherwise, you'll pull your hair out or cry or, you just have to laugh.
You do. I mean, and I'm going to make fun of someone who is in my elder care arena, but I'm not going to say who he is because he does listen to the show, and I'm going to get in trouble because I'm his daughter, so you figure it out from there. Recently we went to a restaurant to celebrate my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, and it was a beautiful restaurant, and, my brother and I were there and all dressed up and on the ocean in La Jolla, couldn't have a more beautiful environment, and my dad refuses to wear his hearing aid. And, in fact, he refuses to get a hearing aid. We can't even get to the wearing part. And what's funny is he's a veteran. I'm very proud of my dad's military service. He is a veteran, and he is eligible for a government-sponsored hearing aid. So there's really only his own not wanting to wear this hearing aid. And, they bring the aloha pie in or whatever it was they served us. And it had this beautiful candle on there and, decorative candle, but it looked like it was made of frosting, and it actually, could have been. But he I said to my dad, hey, Dad, you don't want to eat that. That's the candle. And he's like, mm-hmm. I'm like, Dad, don't eat that. That's the candle. Mm-hmm. You know, because he does that certain look when I know he doesn't understand and he can't hear me. But sure enough, he ate the candle.
It probably had some frosting on it.
It didn't, no, because he was like, oh, this is wax. What am I eating? And I'm like, see, if you had the hearing aid and you were wearing the hearing and the hearing aid was turned on, like the triumvirate of acoustics, you would have known that.
I know. You know, it took my grandma a long time to get a hearing aid. She finally got 2. She won't wear one of them. It sits in her little blue candy jar. But, yeah, she was so, like,
so one of your children
she
could
didn't
stick
want
their hand into the candy jar and eat the hearing aid?
Well, she always says, don't, you know, that's a $1,000 hearing aid in there. Don't touch it. You know, but no, she didn't want anybody to see it for the longest time. And we're like, Grandma, please, please. You know, because it's really hard. You know, we love going over there, but it's really, really hard to go over there because you have to yell all the time. You have to yell all the time, and it's so exhausting sometimes. And, you know, it's really, really hard.
It is
hard. And my grandma can't see very well either, so she's just kind of like in the dark, you know, and it's I'm in the dark. Exactly, you know. So, anyways, I don't know. When I get old, I am wearing hearing aids on both ears. I don't care what I look like, as long as I can hear.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to that.
I will find papers
because I think it's like I look at family and friends who have gotten older over the years, and they all say the same thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't need a hearing aid. I don't need a bra. You know?
My grandma will say, like, I can hear you. I'm like, you can't. You know, I'll say something, and she'll do the little nod and smile, like, you know, maybe I didn't quite hear you, but I'm gonna.
Right, my dad makes
smile.
a really pleasant face.
Yeah,
it's like very pleasant. I'm nodding to you, not hearing a thing you said.
Yes.
Oh. It's all good.
It is.
Well, and I'm like, I don't know about you, but I'm really thankful that I have the opportunity to care for my elders. I do believe it's a huge gift. I feel like I can give back, and it gives me a lot of fun stories. I mean, but it is true. I mean, I think that's the one thing that people don't realize when you care for someone in need, like the benefit that you get from helping them. I mean, to me, it was a really powerful thing. I mean, my one grandmother she's kind of mean to me, but she's like a very stoic German. And I remember one time she'd always make fun of my hair. She's like, oh, you look like a dust mop walking around. And she always had like really choice comments. And but then it was really fun because when she went out of her head, I would go in to like bring her a magazine, and she'd read the same magazine every week, and I would sit there with her and sometimes like play checkers or paint her nails, and she would look at me and she goes, you're so pretty. And I'm like, so I look like a dirty dish mop this week, huh? But of course, it was a really great experience because it allowed me to serve in a way that I couldn't otherwise. It made me feel really good that I could give back, and it kind of gave me a real different viewpoint of aging.
Yeah. But do you think, like, if you were the primary caretaker of the elder person, would you ever feel like it could be, and I hate to use the word burden, but would you ever feel like that was a burden?
Oh, my God, I felt like it was a burden, and I was only doing, like, picking up my grandfather's teeth from the restaurant. That was a huge burden. I mean,
it's like it also changes your life into maybe a direction that you never intended to go.
Absolutely. I mean, there's one thing about voluntarily being in service or wanting to pitch in now and then. I think it's a whole different animal when you're fully responsible. Like I remember, I love my parents and I love helping them, but when my mom was really sick last year, she has stage 4 breast cancer, and she was sick all night, and then I had to take her to the emergency room. And I didn't know, I don't know this area where I live well enough. And I'm like, I knew there was a cancer center somewhere. And, my dad called me at like 7:50 in the morning, and my dad was all upset, because he's been dealing with her as the primary caregiver for my mom's cancer. Mm-hmm. So he was shot. I mean, his nerves were shot. And I had Zach, and Max with me. I'm like, get everybody in my car. I'm like, I'm going to get Mom to the hospital. Then I got in the car, and I'm going down my canyon. I'm like, I don't know where the closest emergency room is. I don't know where the cancer center is. And, and so I thought, well, head down, because I believe, like, medical care is better down the hill than up the hill. But, I was driving down there going, okay, I'm sure there's something in here, and I'm on my cell phone, calling everybody I can think of at 7:15 in the morning going, like, my mom is really sick. She's, because she was, really, like, life-threatening sick, and she wasn't responsive. And, I've got these 2 screaming kids in my car. I've got my dad really nervous in the front. It was really, it was really frightening to have that responsibility, and then thinking, this is like what my dad has all the time.
Every day.
Every day. And I'm freaking out just because I'm, hurtling at 80 miles an hour trying not to kill us all. But, yeah, I think so. I think, there's a fine line between being of service and feeling guilty that it's a burden.
Yeah, because, you don't want to feel guilty. That person took care of, you the whole time, or your parents or whatever. And now when it comes time to take care of them, like, sometimes it's hard to go like, right? You think, like, I don't want to do this today, but you have to.
But you have to,
and
right.
They need you to. And, it's like you feel so guilty for not wanting to do it.
Well, I think the thing is, the guilt comes, I think the frustration comes from lack of choice. It's like when we choose to help someone, it's kind of an altruistic, it's a good feeling thing, and we choose to help someone usually when we have that resource to give. We have the time to give, we have the energy to give, but when it's the obligation, and there's no other relief in sight, that's when your frustration goes up. That's when the resentment comes in. I feel that sometimes as a single mom, that resentment comes in that goes, I want to go out with my friends. I want to go to the movies. I want to go to dinner. I want to do these things, and I can't. I could if I wanted to, like, fob my kids off on a sitter all the time. But it's not having that freedom of choice, I think, makes it really difficult.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay. Chrissy's like, I agree. So you know what? We're going to go to break because Chrissy and I need to have some Diet Coke and, like, get our heads on straight before we have Robin on, who's absolutely delightful. She is Robin Boyd, and she's a full-time elder caregiver, and she's a very, very good friend of mine, and I'm so proud of everything she does. She's also been a really great, mentor to me in a lot of ways, and I think you guys will enjoy her. So I think we should go to break. I think so, too.
Mom, here's your show, Motherhood Talk Radio, giving you interesting, inspiring, and influential information as you navigate everything from childcare to corporate formation. This is Motherhood Talk Radio, and we'll be right back after these. Girlfriended is on TogiNet. Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, with your hosts Patty Wyatt and Lisa Jernigan. This show is your chance to share, learn, laugh, and connect with other women. The Girlfriended principle was born out of loss.
Lisa had recently had her mother pass away from cancer, and my mom was murdered. A man just walking into a room and started a 23-second shooting spree.
I think one of the things we both realized going through those tragedies that you can be extremely okay and be extremely sad.
Check out girlfriended.com and then be a part of Girlfriended, the radio show. Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central.
Your boyfriend or your husband or whatever, they don't totally understand that emotional side to a woman like another woman does. And I think that's so important just to have somebody that you go, she gets me.
Check out the website, girlfriended.com. Don't miss Girlfriended with Patty Wyatt and Lisa Jernigan. Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. What's your story? Are you living it? Well, you could be. It's What's Your Story with Hillary Bilbrey. Friday mornings at 10 Eastern, 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Her passion is helping others discover, create, and live their personal brands. Yep, you heard me. You have a brand. No different than Coke, Pepsi, or Nike. You are a walking, talking, living, breathing brand. You're not a logo. You're not a tagline. The choices you make become the path you take. This is your brand. Now, live your story. Your brand is not just what you say it is. It's also what others say it is. So what are you communicating? And how can you create an authentic brand? We'll take on these challenges with What's Your Story? Every week, Hillary will feature teens, moms, and organizations that are learning and living their story. Now, her passion is to help others discover, create, and live their personal brands. To find out more, go to inspiredbyfamily.com. It's What's Your Story with Hillary Bilbrey. Friday mornings at 10 Eastern, 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Motherhood Talk Radio, the most powerful voice in women's issues. For more information, check out the website, motherhoodtalkradio.com. Now, let's get back to the show with your hosts, Sandra Beck and Christy Holly.
Hey, mamas, it's Sandra Beck here and Christy Holly. And you can say hello.
I already said hello.
You already said hello.
I already said hello.
Yeah, okay. Christy's like burned out from her elder caregiving, I can tell.
That's right. I need a break.
Well, we have Robin Boyd here with us today. She's a full-time elder caregiver, and she's one of these Renaissance women that we like to have on the phone, or actually on the radio show, because Robin wears many hats. Robin is married. She's a mother of 2. She cares for her mother. She's a graphic designer for my company, but she also has her own company that she does freelance work for. And, Robin, did I miss anything? Girl Scouts? There was a whole bunch of other stuff in there.
Sounds like that's enough, doesn't it?
It does.
Hi, it's great to talk to you. Hi, Christy.
Hi.
So now that I've killed the first question about your background, Robin, what brought you to caring for the elderly? Who do you care for, and kind of why did you choose to do home care?
Well, Mom is 86 now. We came here in 94. She had a stroke. My father had died that same year, and when she had her stroke, it was evident that we were going to need to do something. And her clinicians said, well, we need to make some choices. What are they? And so we had to make the decision whether or not we were going to care for her or we were going to have to arrange for care for her. And our choice was to be the caretakers. So it was bag and baggage. We had to decide, okay, where are we going to move? Whether she would come here or we would go there. And we decided that it was time, and we made that choice.
Was that a difficult choice to make?
Very, yes, it was. We each had careers at the time. My children, Emily was in the 3rd grade, Ross was in the 5th grade, so that meant elementary school changes. That meant leaving our area. We were maybe about a half an hour east of where my mom lived, so we really needed to say, how is this going to affect our careers? How is this going to affect our relationships? A lot of things came into play, and it was a difficult choice.
Now, where is here? What part of the country do you live in?
We are in Hooksett, New Hampshire, which is just north of Manchester, which is the southern part of New Hampshire. And this is where I actually grew up, here in Hooksett. So it was coming home for me, which I didn't mind. I didn't mind coming home. What was difficult, I think, is that we had many other things that we had in mind. Both my husband and I owned a company together, which we had just started to redirect and decided on some changes with the business. That being a juncture in our life, we had to decide whether or not us moving to this area was really going to be the right move for us just as a family, let alone what my mother's needs were. And that was difficult because it was difficult to decide whether or not she needed more serious care or whether we were just here to kind of keep an eye on her. And I think that's what's difficult for all families. You really have to network with your elders' clinicians. You have to look at what their physical needs are, what their mental needs are, and what their environment is. If we lived in a tenement house someplace, we weren't going to be able to make this choice. We were really going to need to evaluate a whole lot of things. So,
well, and now this was a decision. This is interesting. You made this decision, and it's your mother.
Yes, it's my mom.
But your husband, you've got your husband's, things to consider. But you also had your kids were like in grades 3 and 5 or something like that, if I'm correct. So you have little ones.
That was, it was tough. And I think there are times when you've got a little one and they're wanting story time at such and such a time, but mom needed help. It meant I had to tend to her instead of kids. And I suppose it's the same as if you had 6 kids. Everybody has to learn to take their turn. But it can be difficult sometimes because you do have to juggle. You want to help your children. You want to do things that you had in mind. We each had career paths that we had intended on taking, and those changed, which was fine. We made other choices, and those other choices have been just great. So,
well, and I think you're part of what a lot of women struggle with these days, especially as a lot of us wait, to have children, to later in life as women,
sure.
Enter the workforce, they get more educated. A lot of educated working women put children off until, kind of the end of their, biological clock. And,
sure.
And as a function of that, their parents tend to be older. So I think I read somewhere they call it the sandwich generation. You're sandwiched between child care and elder care.
And isn't that true? Because even if you don't take this path, you still are going to need to be involved with an older person's needs in some way, shape, or form. It could be paying their bills. It could be monitoring what the senior caregivers give them. You're still going to need to be aware of what's going on. So, yes, you do get in the middle.
Well, and I think, too, that's the difference. I mean, talk about getting in the middle. I mean, this is your mother, and there's, TV shows, Everybody Loves Raymond, it's a funny thing about in-laws, but, it's like you're expecting your spouse to tolerate all these changes in the family. And then, I think there's a different dynamic, too, with when I look at my brothers and sisters, when we were growing up and caring for my elderly relatives, because my dad was an only child, and he had a couple aunts and uncles that had no children, so the primary caregiving responsibility fell on him and my mom, and the kids and I were, the brothers and sisters were expected to pitch in. But it is a different dynamic where, I could tolerate, my little brother needing something, but you're less tolerant, I think, as a child when you look at the needs of another adult, because it's like, hey, wait a minute, they're an adult. It is different.
That's right. And I think what's difficult, too, we were kind of talking about the fact that it was my mom. I remember sitting down in my office with my husband and saying, this is going to be a very difficult thing. You're going to be living with your mother-in-law for an undetermined amount of time. Are you up for this? Are you realizing what we're doing? But he was the one who really said, he almost expected this. I'm an only child. I was the only one who would be able to do this if one of my parents needed help. So he was pretty well braced for it the day he said, I do.
Yeah, but, that's amazing. I think there's a lot of husbands that would not tolerate that. There's a lot of...
I'm laughing because my husband wouldn't be able to tolerate his own little mom.
Well, we've had our moments. Believe me, we've had our moments. And it is true, you're in the middle in more than one way, because there are times that Mom will be very adamant about something, and there are times that Steve, my husband, is very adamant about something, and I'm in the middle. So you do have to be ready for that. But on the other hand, this is a journey that we decided that was right for us. Otherwise, my career was in one part of New Hampshire. We lived in another part of New Hampshire, and Mom was in a third part of New Hampshire. There was just no way that I could be in 3 places at once. So we really decided this was what was right for us.
Well, and that's it's great that you made that, that kind of choice. Now, once you made that choice, what are some of the things that you had to consider?
First, I think, was her needs. Whether we came here, as I said before, whether we came here or she were to come with us, we were ready to put on a little in-law apartment on our house. But we had to consider her physical needs. where her physician was, what kind of therapies she might have needed. After a stroke, sometimes it's difficult to know exactly what any patient is going to need. So we needed to make sure that we were available to the resources that she needed, and our home was not in an area that was easy to get to those kinds of resources. So knowing she was going to be in her own home was going to be better for her. We had to consider, even financially, whether or not I could be here for her. I did work for a little time after we moved here. But we did have to decide whether or not this was the right financial choice for us as well. And those kinds of concerns, I think, hit you no matter what you're facing, whether you're doing it just as a daycare situation or whether you're doing it as full care and long term.
It's hard. It's hard to know because you're not a doctor, and then there's the emotional component in caring for your family member because, you know, you love them and you don't want them to suffer, you don't want them to hurt.
Well, and only you can care for them the way, because you love them, you care for them the best way.
Right.
You know,
it's true.
You care for them the best.
Well, and I know. It's like, and I know, like I know my mother, you know, it's like when the drugs would make her hands burn and her feet burn, you know, whereas the nurse would come in and, like, pick up her hand. Not that the nursing care wasn't wonderful, but, you know, they would just come in and, like, take her post or take her pulse and, you know, and I'd be like, hey, take it easy on there, you know.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm not a patient. This is my mom.
Right.
Her hands hurt. Take it easy, you know. Settle down, nurse.
Yeah. And there's just that contentment. I think as people are getting older, they may not need a lot to keep them content, but the things that they do want around them are important. So we were fortunate that we were able to be here because this has given her the elder environment that she wanted, and that we're glad that we were able to do that.
It's an amazing gift that you can give someone. You know, it really is.
Really is.
And what a wonderful way to say thank you for having me, thank you for caring for me. You know, when it's on your turn to, you know, wherever you believe people go or don't go after they die, that you can be part of kind of that final exit strategy.
Exactly, yes.
Well, we are here with guest Robin Boyd, full-time elder caregiver, and we're going to go take a break now. Or not. What do you think? I need a break.
Here we go.
Mom, here's your show, Motherhood Talk Radio, giving you interesting, inspiring, and influential information as you navigate everything from childcare to corporate formation. This is Motherhood Talk Radio, and we'll be right back after these. Join Learning and Laughter with Louise every Wednesday at 9 Eastern, 8 a.m. Central on TogiNet to discuss fun, fascinating, and educational topics. Each week, Louise will be talking with a variety of guests ranging from authors, educators, parents, filmmakers, athletes, and entrepreneurs, just to name a few. You know, when it comes to learning, the sky is the limit. And so will the topics that are covered here on Learning and Laughter with Louise. Louise Sattler is a school psychologist who has worked within the fields of special education and bilingual education. She also owns a successful company, Signing Families, that creates DVDs and special workshops to teach sign language and instructional products for people of all ages and needs. With new DVDs coming out soon, check her website for more information at signingfamilies.com. From time to time, Louise will be joined by her daughter, Natasha Sattler, who will give a college-age perspective to the show. So pour that morning cup of coffee and join us here on TogiNet every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. You never know who will show up for Learning and Laughter with Louise on TogiNet.com. Let's chat it up with Bloom Talk with Barb Scala on TogiNet. Thursday afternoons at 3 Eastern, 2 Central. And find out how women are growing, blossoming, and blooming in their friendships and careers, health, and so much more. It's Bloom Talk with Barb Scala. Check out our website, bloomwithbarb.com. Whether you want to transplant your life or just do a little pruning, Bloom Talk will inspire you to cultivate the lifestyle you want to live. Join lifestyle coach and co-author of Sanity Savers, Barb Scala, each week on Bloom Talk and sprout your dreams. Grow your life.
I hear a lot from women. I want meaning in my life. I want a fulfilling life. I want to do something that's exciting. And I can control my life instead of my life controlling me. I can tell the world this is who I am and this is what I'm all about.
Barb will introduce you to dynamic guests and real women who are redesigning, rebuilding, and reinventing their own lives. And Bloomstorm, how you can dream, create, and grow the lifestyle you want to live. It's Bloom Talk with Barb Scala. Thursday afternoons at 3 Eastern, 2 Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Motherhood Talk Radio, the most powerful voice in women's issues. For more information, check out the website, motherhoodtalkradio.com. Now, let's get back to the show with your hosts, Sandra Beck and Christy Holly.
Hey, guys, we are here with Robin Boyd, or girls. I guess, I don't know if there's any guys out there, but
there might be a few.
There might be a few. Probably husbands that are stuck listening to this show. We're here with Robin Boyd, and she's a full-time elder caregiver. She cares for her mother. Christy here cares for her grandma. We have all sorts of good things going on. Christy, you want to ask any questions?
Well, I was thinking, yes, I do. I wanted to know, how do you plan a vacation? Who takes care of your mom?
That's not in our vocabulary.
Well, do you have somebody that comes in that can take care of your mom so that you can have maybe a weekend away from everything, or do you just not do anything?
Us personally, for the longest time, we did not. Mom had quite a bit of independence for a bit, so we were able to get away, probably not for a weekend, but we would be able to get out for an evening, go to the movies or go to dinner or whatever. I think one of the things that can be difficult is depending on the type of resources you have in your state and depending on the type of needs that your elder has will depend on what resources you have available to you. Some people will fall into a respite care qualification. Maybe that's their supplemental insurance, or it might be something that they are if they are just coming out of a facility, whether it be for a surgery, whether it be for short-term rehab, they will have services that will follow them post-clinical visit. What can be difficult, though, is if you don't have those resources at the time, you're either going to have to pay for those resources or maybe not have those kinds of times away that you might need. Just recently, my mom broke her collarbone, and it wasn't really a fall. It just happened, and she's frail, she's brittle, and it just happened. So while she was in rehab, that opened up the door for quite a bit of services for us because once she came home, there was a lot of follow-up. I think that's probably one of the things that everybody just needs to investigate as they become more involved with their elders is what does your state provide? Does your county, in fact, there is a Frail Elders program in Concord, which is not very far as the crow flies. However, we just don't land within that district, and we are just about 5 miles too far outside of that radius that they will travel to. So here was a great program, but we didn't qualify. Sometimes your income of the elder or your family makes a difference. That's difficult, too, because you fall in between cracks. If you are very low income, there's Medicaid, a lot of different programs that is going to supplement your needs. But if you make over a certain threshold or if you don't have those supplemental insurances, then you really don't qualify for some of those resources, and you have to be a little more creative.
Well, and it's hard because it's like I remember, like with my my grandma and grandpa, and then my great aunt and my great uncle. It was like this huge learning curve each time of like what services are available, and then because they obviously didn't pass on sequentially or, in an organized manner.
Yes.
And some were sick while others were sick. And then programs stop and then they start, and it's a very difficult thing to navigate. I know there's Office of the Aging, which is a federal program that can help, and there's some organizations through Catholic Charities. I think you can Google your area, but I guess from my experience, the best, not that anyone's asking my advice on this topic, but the best advice I can give is that remember that it's like an unnavigable maze for everybody of trying to figure out what you qualify, what services are available. Stuff comes and goes. It's nothing personal. It can feel like you're the only one that's, getting shafted by some of these programs.
Yeah, you do. Well, and as with every government program, and I don't mean to say that so negatively, but there are so many times that you will go through a long registration process, a long application, only to find out 4 to 6 weeks later that you didn't qualify. And it could just have been because there was an extra $200 in some bank account somewhere. It's amazing that, you just have to research and network with other people, and it is important to network. I know through my church we'll have a little group that will help, and they will help bring a hairdresser in to cut hair, or maybe it's just someone to come in and visit and play cards or listen to some big band records instead of listening to the kids all day long or something of that nature. It is true. You have to just reach out and decide, I'm going to investigate what's available to me and in our situation. And networking is the most important.
I think that was the hardest thing, especially, for certain different groups of people or certain dynamics, you have to ask for this help. So it's very humbling.
Yeah.
It's necessary. But, you can't, it's like this stuff can't rely completely on the family. I mean, there is social services that have to get involved at some point, whether it's palliative care or hospice care or, any of these things. But it's very difficult. And, I found, as with most things in my life, that if I don't ask, nothing happens.
Right.
And that if I don't push sometimes really hard and get into, a situation where I'm like, look, I need this to be done. I need you to follow up on this. And if you don't, I will be here standing with my lawyer.
Right.
It's really hard. You have to fight for a lot of these services. And I mean, I don't advocate threatening people.
Right.
Unless it's necessary.
Right. And sometimes even the service people are tied. Their hands are tied. We do have something here in the southern New Hampshire area. This gal sat at my kitchen table, and we talked about this. And then ultimately it ended up, she said, I'm sorry, this program just does, you just don't qualify. So but that's not to say, okay, door's closed, I'm stuck. It just means that I need to find a different door, and you just find something else that is going to work. But
and I think, too, especially, I can remember arguing with some of these people, and a lot of times they'll give you answers that are, scripted answers or answers that they've given, and if you start asking, like, well, why? Why is this? And, what else can I do? People don't think about your situation as much as you do, and I'm like a rabid dog with a bone with some of this stuff because...
Sure.
And I've always found a very powerful tool to go, hey, look, if this was your mother or if this was your father, would you just accept, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any appointments this week. There's got to be a cancellation. There's got to be something, because people don't push for you. Only you can push for you. And you are, there's patient advocates that can help you so you don't go like psycho on the hospital. But you do need to push because you are, at the end of the day, you are just a number.
That's very true. And they're going to look at you and say, you think you've got it bad. You should see the caseload that's sitting on my desk. And it is very difficult because they do juggle so much.
Sure.
You have to, and therefore, if you're not going to get it from one resource, what your needs are, you just need to be willing to say, all right, I'm going to go and find something else then that is going to work for me. Sometimes when there is a diagnosis that warrants some support, like Alzheimer's, it's a very difficult diagnosis, but there will be support because they fall into that category. Sometimes, though, when you've got just an elderly person who just happens to be elderly and frail, that's, I think, the harder part because they don't fall into a category where they can qualify for something.
Right, there's no box to check. That's
yeah,
what we have.
right.
Yeah, they're just old.
They're just old.
Just because you're old and you don't have, like, a state-funded illness.
Right,
it's true.
Right. So that's when you just have to dig down deeper and you say, all right, this is what we're facing and this is what we've got. And you don't say, oh, woe is me. You say, I'm going to make the best of it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And especially, I don't know about other states. I know New York State pretty well, but, New York State has, like, assisted living, and then they have from assisted living, you go into nursing care. There's kind of a protocol for that.
Right, right.
But
and
the waiting
list, a
list,
very long waiting list.
It's a long waiting list, and then you have to exhaust resources. So by the time they go into the system, they're broke, and then the family members have to come in, for extra things. It's really difficult. It's I think one of the most difficult things that, like, a sandwich mom has to work with, because you want to, care for your kids and you want to pay for soccer, but then you go, okay, well, my mom or my grandma needs this, or my time. I think that's the hardest thing for me. I mean, money is one thing, but time for me is a huge premium.
Of course.
And where do you allocate it?
And it's not just the overhead of a facility. I remember when my husband's dad, who had Alzheimer's, was in a facility, they called my mother-in-law one day and said, we need 6 pairs of pants, but they have to be specialty pants that he can't undo and unzip because they had to snap in the back. And they were $40 a pair, and they wanted 6 pairs because they had to have enough to go through the laundry. She had to bring those in by Friday. So you have those kinds of things that you face every day as well. So it's not just, okay, the nursing home costs X amount a week.
It's on backwards. Take the same pants, put on backwards, and we'll be good to go.
I'm trying to picture how that would work.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, needless to say why they had to snap in the back, but yes, they did.
Yeah, I mean, but it's sometimes the most reasonable request from a system, like a healthcare system or an education system, but the end user, the you and me and Christie's of the world were like, are you kidding me? Like,
exactly.
Read this before you issue it?
Oh, gosh.
But, it's good to laugh about these things because it is difficult.
You have to laugh about it. We
all go through it, at some point or another, and we are just doing the best we can. And I think that's the biggest thing that, I hope that the listeners take away. And, Robin, I'm sure you have your own perspective, which we will get to when we come back from break. We're here with Robin Boyd and Christy Holly, and we're talking about elder care issues, and we're pretty much making fun of the elderly. No, not really. All right, we'll see you after the break.
Mom, here's your show, Motherhood Talk Radio, giving you interesting, inspiring, and influential information as you navigate everything from childcare to corporate formation. This is Motherhood Talk Radio, and we'll be right back after these. Combine Snide and Remark, and you've got Snark. Combine Lisa Mena and Valia Alvarez on Monday nights, and you've got Deep Dish Snark. Monday nights at 9, 8 Central, part of the Her Insight Network. When you've had enough at work or at home, and you're ready to laugh, join Lisa and Valia for their no BS look at the world and the people in it. They'll be serving up a no-holds-barred take on pop culture, current events, entertainment, and family matters, with segments like Accidentally Helpful, TV is Now My Hobby, and Who Sucks This Week. Deep Dish Snark delivers something for every girl who enjoys life with a dash of sarcasm. Lisa Manna is a former TV news anchor turned stay-at-home mom. She's making sure if anyone screws up her kids, it's her. Valia Alvarez suffers life as a jack of all trades, mistress of none, by juggling a PR career, marriage, motherhood, and more. Don't miss Deep Dish Snark with Lisa Manna and Valia Alvarez, Monday nights at 9, 8 Central, part of the Her Insight Network, on TogiNet.com. Get ready for the Not So Soccer Mom, Tuesday afternoons at 1 Eastern, noon Central on TogiNet with Jill Hickey. You name it, from politics to pop culture to Jill's search for the perfect bronzer and chicken salad. The Not So Soccer Mom will weigh in on it all. The sentence, "I have no opinion about that," is one that Jill has never uttered. In the early 90s, Jill finally decided to put her thoughts, opinions, mom advice, love of pop culture, hummus, and Starbucks, working out, cosmetic shopping, and politics into an actual website, and thus NotSoSoccerMom.com was born. Shortly after her fourth child, a boy, Jerome, now she's really got tons of topics to share with you. This is Laugh Out Loud Funny, and we're not kidding. What's a loud Nebraska girl who lived in Little Rock for many years and now is up in the Northeast doing? Chronicling her opinions on everything. The wheels aren't off yet, but it's close. It's the Not So Soccer Mom with Jill Hickey, Tuesday afternoons at 1 Eastern, noon Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Motherhood Talk Radio, the most powerful voice in women's issues. For more information, check out the website, motherhoodtalkradio.com. Now, let's get back to the show with your hosts, Sandra Beck and Christy Holly.
Hey, we are here today with Robin Boyd. It's Sandra Beck and Christy Holly. Christy, hello. Christy, you haven't been saying much this show.
I know, because I've been thinking about my grandma a lot.
What is her name?
Her name is Opal.
Opal, we're sending this out to you.
Oh, how beautiful. Hi, Opal.
We'll say hello to Opal. It's for you. And Robin, what's your mommy's name?
Jenny. We call her nickname is Jenny.
Jenny?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, her real name's Virginia. Yes.
Aww,
and it's Ginny, Gini. So.
Can she hear? We don't have to yell
No,
again.
she's not. I'm going to have her listen to the podcast, though. She can be quite a character sometimes.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's like, there's so many, we talked about some of the, kind of the trials and tribulations we have in elder care issues. We talked about some of the frustrations and the hard parts of it. But, there are a lot of really positive things, I think, that come out of, caring for our elderly.
Mm-hmm. In fact, she's kind of funny. She says she won't go to the senior every Friday in our town. They have a little seniors thing at the library. I don't want to go there. They're all old people. I don't want to go there. I want to hang out with and that's just the way she says it. I want to hang out with the kids. I want to be with young people. So it has been fun. Mm.
That is true. I know, with my parents and I mean, they can only tolerate my kids for so long, but, one of the big joys in life like that is watching the kids and their, and let's face it, the kids are funny.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
But old people are funny, too.
Old people are funny, too.
Oh, that's true. And there isn't a day that doesn't go by. She just kind of wants to check on the kids. And, of course, my kids are adult kids now. But she'll say, well, what's Ross doing today? And where's Emily today? And she just needs to check in. And the kids will try and peek in, say, hi, Graham, or whatever, even if they're on their way out somewhere. I'll say, make sure you visit with Graham and whatnot. And that's all she needs is just that touch of what's going on around her, and then she's grounded and she feels good. There's something to be said for being alone, though, and more times than not, she prefers being in her room, and you sometimes think, oh, my goodness, she's just stuck in there alone. But there's something to be said for the peace and quiet, and when she wants to come out, she will, and when she wants to go back, she'll go back in her room, and that's her place of security.
Well, and I think, too, there's, expectations. I remember with my grandfather, and, as he got older, he died at 90, but as he got into his late 80s, he found routine very comforting, and, and he, of course, went back to speaking German, which,
sure.
challenging for all of us. But there's a great comfort in that. And I think, I remember expectations. I remember my mom, lecturing me about something because I was mad at my grandfather for something. I think we were supposed to go somewhere, and then he didn't want to go, and he got all nervous, and then, the whole thing was canceled. And I was, probably 10 years old, and I, totally didn't understand. And, my mom was like, you have to change your expectations and, pretty much get rid of your expectations And she's like, your grandfather's 89. What do you expect him to go out and dance a jig?
Right.
And I'm like, he's no fun. He just sits in the corner and smokes and takes out his teeth. And but it is true. I think, recognizing their need for privacy, I think is a big part of it. And, learning to live in a multi-generational household is something that can be a challenge.
It can be. It can be great. It can be challenging. There are times, of course, the kids want to party or they want the music cranked, and you just have to say, Graham really, now that Graham's a little more hard of hearing, I don't think she hears the music quite as much, which is okay. But it's true. It has both sides of the coin.
Well, and I think, the one thing it did for me, I know, when I was married and my in-laws were struggling with the passing of their first elderly person. I mean, for me, they dropped like flies on my mom's side. And, I had been to so many funerals, by the time I was 10 years old, and then watching my, great-aunt, great-uncle, another great-aunt and great-uncle, oh, my God, at least 6 of them pass on, and then my own grandparents. I got to learn at a very young age that this was just a process.
That's right.
And
that's right.
And I think growing up in a rural farming community, too, with animals, you recognize there is a specific lifespan.
That's right.
Versus some of my city friends who were more insulated from this, like the wealthy city people. The parents went into these like nursing homes, and they were fancy, and they had swimming pools, where they have the little cranes that lift the people in. I mean, it's not, it's not necessarily a realistic end to life.
Right.
And when you go through it enough, I mean, it's still painful, but you start to see the signs. You start to see the signs as they age, and you see, as opposed to people that I know who are like, they just go crazy when they get old. And, for me, it was like, that's just what happens when you get old. And, you don't stuff them with antidepressants or whatever,
Well, that's
you sit them on a porch
and I think
a rocker
facing
with a blanket.
talking about it, facing it, we've talked about wills. We've talked about when the time comes. There's nothing wrong with being very realistic. It's going to happen. And making sure that the time that she has, which we hope will be as best as it is for whatever time, we're lucky that we were given as much time as some people when they have a stroke. Their time is very limited, and we've been here since 1994. So, and she has more challenges than she did back then, but nonetheless, we're very lucky that she has had a very comfortable environment and a comfortable living life or living time. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, one of the things you talked about,
that, but
a lot of,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of families too. Like if they've never experienced death, you know, of a loved one, or they haven't experienced it a lot. Topics like advanced health care directives. Who's going to pull the plug? Who's going to,
That's right. That's right.
But you can laugh about these things because they're necessary.
That's
I have healthcare directives because my kids are minors, and I don't want my ex-husband making decision on that one. But we were
going over her finances one day, and she was saying, "Well, my life insurance is this, and I have this much in savings." She says, "Do you have enough to bury me?" And we looked at it all, and I said, "Mom, you're good to go." And she just thought that was hilarious. And
but it is expensive to get buried.
Well, gosh, yeah.
That's one of my favorite things a couple years ago, because I study companies as part of, branding and things, and I was just tickled pink when Costco started carrying caskets.
Yeah, that's great.
I think Costco and Sam's are like, I got my casket at Sam's.
Right. Well, but you have to have these conversations, and you make light of them to a certain degree, and we laugh about it, and we talk about it. In fact, when she was talking to the minister one day after he left, she said, "Yep, he can do my service. I like him."
But that's great. I mean,
it doesn't mean it's going to be tomorrow. It just means that whenever the time comes, she's good with it. So
it is. But I think one of the most loving things parents can do, and this is something, I say this because it's my parents and they did it, but they purchased long-term health care insurance, to offset some of these things, but they've also made all their directives. They have their power of attorney sent, they have their health care directives, they've bought their burial plots where they want to be buried. Everything is already mapped out because, when my mom's mother died, and she was very young, and she had small children, she was running around trying to figure out what dress to bury her in during the funeral.
Sure.
Her house got robbed because, they put the funeral notice in the paper.
That's right, yeah.
Come steal stuff from my house. And, she had such a difficult time with it. And my mom and dad sat me and my brother down at one point, and my brother and sister, too, I'm sure were notified because they live other places, but I don't want to, diss my sister, but, they have everything planned, and my mom's like, look, it's going to be hard enough for you, and all you have to worry about kind of is showing up and notifying people. I really think that as a parent, that's the most loving thing, one of the most loving things you can do is to establish everything so that at the time of your death, that your kids don't have to run around going like, does she want to be buried in her Krav gear or a dress?
That's right. That's right.
I just think that's important.
Sure.
No, so Robin, what do you think? What do you think you would like the listeners today to take away with? What one thing, if you could give the listeners a piece of advice, something that that they could take away with from all the range of topics we talked today, what would that be?
I think enjoy the time you have. And that's probably the most important thing. You don't know how much time you're going to have. You could have a day, a week, 10 years. You could have a decade or more. Whatever that time is, you need to make sure that it's the best time that it can be and that it works for all of you. I think that's important. That's probably the best.
This is the one thing that I've discovered in my lifetime is that sometimes going with the flow is not so bad.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times when people are sick and they're going through that, I guess, death process, if you will, there's a lot to fight.
Right.
And, I just think about not that you have to let nature take its course at all the time, but there is a point at which in the palliative care process, which is the process of, caring for terminally ill people, that there has to be a let go. Because you can't fight all of it. And I think it makes it really difficult to enjoy that time.
That's right. Because the details are going to happen. The details will come around. You just need to make the best of whatever time you're given.
Absolutely. And, and it's like you don't want that time filled with, should you take this treatment, should not take this treatment. It can be all about the treatment and not about the living. And that, for me, with my mother, I think that's the most important thing I've learned.
Absolutely.
Well, Robin, I got to thank you for coming on today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a delight to chat with you. And
you shared so much important information. And Christy,
I'll be thinking of Opal.
listening and absorbing all this stuff.
It's all good. Well, we have had just such a wonderful time today, and, each week we have such great guests, and Robin, I'm so glad to have considered you one of our guests, and who do we have next week? Anybody know?
Rick? I should know.
Rick, I know. Well, I don't know who we're having next week.
It's a surprise guest.
It's a surprise guest. So tune in and check us out. Christy and Sandra will be here next week, and have a good week. We'll check in with you later. Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of Motherhood Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Christy Holly, part of the Her Insight Network on TogiNet.com.